All right, we're back. So on the break, by the way, we're COMP123, Programming 2, Summer 2016 semester at Centennial. It's week 6, part 4 of our broadcast. We're talking about making this game idea, and I've created this calculate target angle private method. Right now, I based it off of a previous game that I was making. I'm going to upload this to GitHub so you have it as well. So I'm going to go to Team Explorer. Is it going to work? I don't know. We have to make some tests to make sure it works. We'll do that in a second. And I'm going to go to changes. I'm going to say added private calculate target angle method to the game object class. Right? Commit, home, sync, and push. Now you should have it too up on GitHub. Okay, so this little method, what it's going to do is it's going to calculate the angle between 2 points. I'm using a dx and dy value. They're 2 floating points. And what I've done is I've changed, this is something I had to tell you, I've had to change this to double for now, right? So my direction is actually a double value, still a floating point value, but a double precision floating point value, right? And that's why I had to do this with my, because when I calculate, I use math.arctangent, right, to calculate the distance between 2 points, right? And then I get an angle in radians, and I got to convert it back into an angle in, this calculates the angle in degrees. Now, is it complete? I got to check because we got to see what the angles are if it works. What I had in my previous version, just to point it out, was in Starbase 12. I made a game like this, and I just kind of lifted this thing right from my my code, right from JavaScript, which actually almost lifted directly. One thing that I had at the bottom was my target angles. I added 180 degrees to it, and I got to see why. Might be because of the way I calculate angles from a game perspective. We'll see if that's required. Okay, let's take a look and see if we can use this thing. So we use our initializer method to calculate the target angle. Let's see what the target angle should be. Actually 0 starting off, right? Because all this, x and y coordinates are all 0 starting off, right? So if I save this, and if I go back to my program, right? And now that I initialize, oh man, we're missing something. I want to be able to see my player. What do I need to be able to see the stats of my player and all my details? Some kind of toString method, right? Which we can override. If I go down to here, it's going to be a public method that I override. I'm probably going to put it in here, right before this part here. It's going to be part of my method. So public, now override void. What's it going to be called? Look, I have some options. It gives me the options. I want to override my toString method, right? I don't want to return my base toString. What I want to do here is return a bunch of my values. Like, for example, I want to start creating a string. So I'm going to say my return string. So string, return string is equal to string.format. And we did this before, right? Or I could do something like, instead of string.format, I'm just going to use, in this particular case, a bunch of string interpolation. So the first one is going to be my my values. So if I look up here, and if I look at all my values, I'm going to have all this stuff: attack, defense, lives, name, speed. So attack. So attack plus this dot attack, right? Then plus \n. I think it's \n, right? And then what I want to do is I want to say return string plus equals to, and we'll say defense plus this dot defense plus \n. This is just formatting my string. Return string plus equals to, did last time, name plus this dot name plus \n. And then return string plus equals to, what else? Lives, I think it is. Lives plus this dot lives plus \n. Right? What else am I missing? So attack, defense, lives, name, speed, direction, position, and facing. Speed, direction, position, and facing. It's actually right here. So return string plus equals to speed plus this dot speed plus \n. You should probably copy and paste to make it so I don't like, it's not like watching paint peel. Position. Now this is interesting. Position dot the x and y position is what I wanted to return, right? So position x, right, is going to be equal to this dot position dot x, right? The x value of my position, and then position y. And then this dot position dot y. Because remember, position is actually a vector. It's not just like one value anymore, right? And speed is now facing, I think, right? Sorry. Position, direction, and facing. Facing first. So facing dot x, which one I'm looking at, is equal to the same thing. This dot facing dot x. So all I'm doing is building up the string that I'm going to return. That's all I'm doing here. So as I'm doing this kind of stuff, it's not unintuitive to see what I'm doing, right? And also return string plus equals to, and this is the last one I care about, is direction, which is plus this dot direction, because that's just a value, an angle in degrees. Add another enter anyway. Okay, so we've got this, and we need to return the string because we have a return value. So return string, right? That's what we're doing. So we're building up the return string here, right, with this, and then we're returning it afterwards. You can call it whatever you like: string, return string, message, whatever. Okay, now that we got this in our game object, it becomes available to us down the line. That's why we plot everything in our abstract class, and then later on we can use it. Let's take a look at that. So if I was to look at our program again, here's our program, and we can see that I can move my player forward and all that. But let's just get rid of all this testing that I just did already for my player, my green player. I've got some initialization values. I wanted to say green player dot toString. I want to be able to do that. Green player dot toString. So I initialize my green player, and I want to print out what he's about. That's what I'm doing right now. See all this work that we're doing for making a simple game? Because we're defining the whole framework, how the player moves, where he is in two-dimensional space, what a vector is. We're doing all that kind of work. Now, luckily, we already have a game engine that does that. Unity does all that for us if we're going to make a Unity game, right? But we're doing it almost like we're recreating Unity for ourselves, like a small game engine, if you will. All right. Well, first we're just defining objects. There's no game engine yet. Okay, so how do we let's test this out. Let me wait till this is done. So I'm going to press start, and let's see what we get. We get an error, right? Here we go. This is our first error we got. It says an unhandled exception of system null reference exception occurred in player project exe, right? And it happened right here. Now, this doesn't give us much detail, but it does give us the value of everything right here. The facing is null, and this position is null, right? Float dx, position.x, and position.y, and floating x and floating y, right now, if you notice where they are, it's null. Well, yeah, they would be, right? Let me explain. If we go back in there, once we start doing this calculation here with calculate target angle, where are we doing this? Are we doing it before facing a position? Yeah, we can't do it now. We got to do direction later. Because otherwise, position and facing have no values, right? They get a value as soon as we do this vector 2. So this is incorrect. It's got to be down here. Just we're just transposing that position of when we define everything. I'll leave it like this for a second. Okay, let's try it again. So I'm going to run it again. I got nothing. Oh man, what happened? How come it didn't do the toString value? right? How come it's 0? I don't even get anything here at all. Well, we have to trace it back and see what's happening, right? My toString method has been overridden, right? It's been overridden by in my abstract class, right? Doesn't the overridden method, doesn't it go down the line, right? And here's something that I'm doing. I'm calculating this stuff over here, right? But is it really being written down the line into my abstract class, right? Like I want to be able to use this thing all the time, right? So why am I getting that? Let's start stepping through and see if I'm going to get a method from my toString method, right? So when I call my toString method, I want it to step into and step over. So I'm going to go back to my program, and when I click this, I want to kind of click in this. Here's my debugging, right? Then we'll stop for the day. And I want to start. What it's going to do, it's going to kick into, I'm going to step into the method because I've kicked on my debugging, right? Here's where it first goes. It says, here's my string value. Now, if you notice, here's the value, right? Attack is 0. This defense, take a look at all of my values here. These are all my values for everything, right? My position, which is a vector2 object, x and y, all this stuff is going to be defined. All the objects here are going to be defined, right? Let's start going into this thing. So right now they're all zeros. So my initialize method worked, right? Now look at this. This is attack 0, defense 0, blah 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 blah. All this stuff gets returned. Let's take a look and see if that happens. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to go next. So at this point, if I collapse all this stuff, the value of this that's being carried over, that's why I've used this, is you can see what all the values are. What about my return string? It hasn't been defined yet. My return string is just attack right now. Watch. If I go here, it says your step into request resulted in an automatic step over property. Okay, I keep doing that. So now I'm here. Here's my step over, right? And I want to look at my return string. So where's my return string in here? Here it is. Attack. It says attack nothing, 0 /n. That's where it is. Okay? Attack 0. Let's keep doing that. So we keep stepping in. And if I go over, goes to the next one. I'm going to keep going over to the next one. The next one, you can see how it builds up the whole entire value of my thing until I get down to here, right? Here it is here. And if I look over it, you can see that the value, if I hover over, it tells me my return string is attack 0, defense 0, my name is green, my lives are 0, my speed is 0, my position x is 0, and so on. And if I really want to look at it, I can look at my whole string by opening this up, right? Like I can actually look at the entire thing. Here's my return string. My direction is 0. All this stuff is stuff. This is what I should be getting, but I'm getting nothing. How come? All right, so this is exactly what I want, output, right? And let's continue. So we're going to continue going on. So I'm going to move on, right? So I want to kind of step into, right? I'm back to here, right? I'm back to here, my green player toString. And when I go, I've got my values of everything, right? So how come it gets wiped out? Like how come I don't see anything afterwards? So I'm going to keep going. Wait for any key, right? And then I right line this stuff. And let's see what I get. This. How come? How come I'm getting this? It looked like it should work, right? Hey, just for posterity, right? Just to see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to console.writeLine. After I do this, before I return my string, just to see what I'm going to get. If it actually gets here, I'm going to do a console.writeLine. I'm going to put in return string. So just to test it out. Use that as a test factor to see what I'm doing wrong, right? Because again, this is in my override. I'm overriding my toString method. I'm calling my toString method, right? But somehow in my program, I'm getting nothing. All right, let's see what happens now. So I run it. Now I get it, but down here I got 0, right? This is what I'm expecting to get, 0 for my direction, right? But how come I got, when I just do this, toString, right, returns nothing? Well, because toString only returns a string, right? Remember how strings work. This doesn't do anything. It just gives me a string back, right? So what I need to do in order for me to make toString work properly is the following, right? Just so you guys know how this works, I can say console.writeLine, and inside there, and this is what you'd have to do for your assignment 2. If I asked you to do the toString method, override the toString method, you'd have to kind of print it out like this, right? And if I press play now, you can see that I get these values. So everything works, and I get all the values that I want. Let's make some changes to the X and Y coordinate, right? To see if I get my direction is different. Okay, so here's what I want to do, right? Let's check this out. If my X and Y coordinate for my position is 0, 0, right? And in two-dimensional space, my other position is up 3, and I want to go to the left. So up 3 means Y is positive 3, and to the left, minus 3, because I want to move to the left with X. X moves to the right, and Y moves, well, we're hoping it's going to move up, but actually moves down. Let's see what happens. So if I say this, if I say, to try this out, my green player dot facing dot X, my green player is facing dot X, right, is equal to, so again, facing X is to the left, which means minus 3. And if it's a double, right, because it's a double, I got to put, is it D? I got to use? What's the, or is it F? What do I got to use? Or is it just minus 3? Minus 3.0. You got to put something in there, right? Can't be F. D works for decimal or double, right? But something. What's the double annotation? What's the annotation for string? It can't be 3.f. I mean, I can use float for now, but and then my green player dot facing dot Y, I want to make it up 3, so it's equal to 3.0f, right? If I do that, right? So my X and Y coordinates are what they are. What happens to my my position, my direction? How do I look? Let's see what angle I get. I get a direction of 0. That's not right. I can't be, right? My direction can't be 0. If my X and Y coordinates, my facing is totally different. Because I'm getting my facing, and I'm some minus 3 and 3, and my position is 0 and 0. It can't be 0. So that's not working. You can test it, because if you try to do the arctangent and all that stuff, well, because we're returning that information, right? Direction can't be 0. Can't be. It's impossible, right? And another test would be if I was going to I'll put a larger number. Let's say, for example, I made it so it's 10, and this one would be, I don't know, 30 or something like that. Save it and run it. Something's not right, because I'm getting 0 all the time, right? This other stuff works out, and my position X and Y is okay. My direction is not good. So let's add in that 180 that I had before, right? See if that makes a difference. Shouldn't be 0 anyway, right? And then it'll just be 180 all the time, right? If I go back to that idea, right, which is my little formula that I'm using is wrong, right? So double target angle, what it says plus equals to 180. I turn my dy value into minus dy because it's reversed, right? Right, so I kind of turn it around, right? So my float, it says local variable dy is already defined in the scope, right? I don't have to do this. So I'm reversing the dy. Now it says target angle plus equals to 180. I can't put 180. 180 what? Degrees, right? So it's got to be F or something like that, because target angle is a double. I don't know if it's D or F. Think I remember? I should, huh? Double value. You have to annotate it with a in a C# reference. You have to put a 3D. Yeah, I thought capital D for double. I was doing it right. It's a literal notation that you have to put in there, else it won't work properly, right? So D. So target value. Oh yeah, it's because target in radians. What's the end thing? It says plus equals to invalid expression. I'll be okay. Right? And let's try that out now. Let's try it in code now. So we've got this, and I'm sorry I'm running overtime, guys. I apologize. But if I was to run this thing again, I can see that I'm always getting 180. That doesn't make any sense. So I got some kind of problem with my code, and when we come back at some point next semester, next half of the semester, I'll fix it, right? So just to recap before we go, what am I doing here? I'm creating an abstract class. I'm trying to, put components together to create a model for my game object. That's what I've been doing. Next week, remember that we have a small exam where I have to kind of come up with. Again, it's going to be an hour and a half, so 90 minutes you're going to have to do your stuff. It's going to be held on the same day that we have today, so 10:30 to 12:30 on the Friday, right? And we'll do a quick review of everything on the Tuesday, okay? So guys, see you next week. Thank you.